You've been delegating your whole life. We all have. At home, at work, it's just second nature. But what if I told you that with AI, you're not just delegating tasks anymore? You're actually delegating a piece of your own mind. Today, we're going to explore how this simple, everyday act has become a really high-stakes game. And, well, the rules have completely changed.
Okay, let's just dive right in. For decades, we've all looked at delegation as simple logistics, right? It's about moving a task from my plate to yours. It was all about managing workflow. But now, a totally new reality is here. With AI, delegation has become a cognitive transfer. We're not just moving the work anymore. We are literally moving the thought behind the work, the judgment, the priorities, the very way we see the problem in the first place.
So what's really going on under the hood during this transfer? It's not about offloading busy work anymore, not by a long shot. It's about embedding the very structure of our thought process into an automated system.
I mean, really think about it. The next time you ask an AI to summarize a complex report or maybe prioritize a flood of customer tickets, you're handing over so much more than just a task. You're transferring interpretive responsibility, how to make sense of messy, ambiguous data. You're transferring how you frame risk, what you consider a threat versus what looks like an opportunity. You're even handing over your own mental shortcuts, your heuristics, and that subtle gut feel logic you use to decide, okay, this needs to get done right now, and that can wait till later.
And the implication here is just massive. Every single time we delegate to an AI, we are encoding a piece of our reasoning into that system. So we're not just getting a task done more efficiently. We are, prompt by prompt, re-architecting the entire cognitive nervous system of our organizations.
And this idea actually has a name. It's the core concept for this explainer. Delegation as cognitive transfer, or DCT for short. This is the formal term for this huge shift in authority. Think of it this way. You're not just giving someone a recipe to follow. You're giving them the authority to decide what tastes good in the first place. And that's the whole game. We're transferring the power to interpret, to judge, and even to know.
Now, this transfer of cognitive authority, it's not some simple on or off switch. No, it's a spectrum. It's a gradient. And as we move along it, giving up more and more of our actual thinking, the risks, well, they start to grow exponentially.
So we can break the spectrum down into 5 levels. Level 1, execution, that's the easy stuff. Transcribe this audio file. Level 2, procedural, is a bit more involved. Follow these 10 steps to process this invoice. But at level 3, judgment, things start to get really interesting. We say, review these resumes and shortlist the top 5. See, we're transferring our criteria for what good even looks like. Then, level 4, interpretive, goes even deeper. Analyze all this customer feedback and tell me the overall sentiment. We're asking the AI to literally make meaning out of chaos. And finally, level 5, intent, this is where we hand over the why. Optimize our ad campaign to increase engagement.
And this is where it gets so incredibly dangerous. Most of us think we're playing in the shallow end of the pool, making level 1 and 2 requests. But the reality is, every time we give a vague, high-level prompt like, just handle customer support, we are silently jumping straight into the deep end. We're operating at levels 4 and 5, often without even realizing how much cognitive control we've just signed away.
So what happens when we unknowingly give up that much control? Well, a really subtle and insidious process begins. Our human judgment gets locked in place, frozen in code. The original meaning starts to drift, and our core intent, it slowly begins to decay. Here is the fundamental conflict. Human judgment is alive, right? It's fluid, it's adaptive, it corrects itself based on new information and mistakes. But the encoded judgment we embed in our systems is static. Its power is that it can scale instantly and it persists tirelessly. Its weakness, though, is that it operates without any reflection, stubbornly executing an old command long after the context has completely changed.
This leads to a phenomenon called interpretive drift, and honestly, it's like a high-stakes corporate game of telephone. With each handoff, from a human to a machine to another machine, the original nuanced meaning gets a little more distorted, a little more warped, and just like in that game, the message that comes out at the very end is often a bizarre, unrecognizable version of what you started with.
Let's just trace how this can happen. Imagine a manager delegates the intent to improve customer happiness. Okay. The AI agent translates that into a task, reduce ticket resolution time. Its output then feeds another workflow, which optimizes that single metric, relentlessly. At each step, the rich, complex concept of happiness is simplified and lost, until the entire system is just chasing a number that might actually be making customers less happy by rushing them off the phone. So why is this drift so hard to catch? Because it's an invisible failure. The dashboards all look great, all the metrics are green, everything's up and to the right. The original complex intent from months ago has been totally forgotten, and because responsibility is just smeared across this whole chain of automated systems, no single person holds the full story or feels accountable for that growing gap between the goal and the reality.
It sounds pretty dire, I know. But are we just doomed to this future of invisible failure? Not necessarily. But we do need a new playbook. We absolutely need a new set of rules for maintaining control in a world run by intelligent agents.
The new foundation of control is a skill called mental resimulation. Think of it like a chess grandmaster. Before they ever touch a piece, they're playing out entire games in their head, right? They're anticipating moves and countermoves and all the cascading effects. It's that same ability to internally model a system's likely behavior and its real-world consequences before you ever give the command.
And look, this is the bottom line. If you or someone on your team cannot mentally play out the likely outcomes of a delegated action, then you are not really in control. Your authority is an illusion. You aren't delegating anymore, you're gambling.
So how do we get better at this? Well, we can use these 5 non-negotiable conditions as our guide. Think of them as the vital signs for healthy delegation. Is the process reconstructible? Can you actually explain how a decision was made? Is it reversible? Can you hit the undo button before real harm is done? Is there cognitive visibility? Is the logic still understandable to a human? Is there consequential coupling? Do the decision makers actually feel the results, good or bad? And finally, is the original intent preserved and can you audit it? If the answer to any of these is no, the system is unsafe, period. This all boils down to a fundamental shift in how we have to think about governance. In this new era, true governance isn't about signing off on a budget or a strategy doc. It's about maintaining cognitive oversight. If an organization's leaders can no longer re-simulate the decisions its automated systems are making in human terms, that organization, well, it's no longer in charge of its own destiny. Which leaves us with a final question. And this is one that applies to everyone, from the CEO all the way down to the intern. The next time you delegate to a machine, ask yourself, are you actively leading and shaping the future of your work? Or are you just abdicating, passively letting it shape you?